Hey folks, it's not quite 8:30 in the morning yet and I haven't had my coffee. It is brew day, but my hot liquor tank is just starting to heat. I haven't even started heating strike water yet. So let me go grab a cup of coffee and then we'll be right back and talk about today's brew. Alright, some coffee has been consumed. It's about a half hour later and my hot liquor tank is up to temperature. Right now I'm adding hoses to begin heating up my strike water. And the desired strike temperature today is about 165 degrees. All right, this is a recipe that's been going around this spring and summer, the summer of COVID. But because of politics and the news and everything that's been going on, I kind of shut the news off. And anything political or current events related, I just tuned out. And that means that this recipe got tuned out of my vision as well. But I was watching an episode of Basic Brewing Video. Love those guys. And they were making this recipe. It's published on the American Home Brewers Association website. If you're a member, you can access the recipes. And it just looked like a damn good stout recipe to me. So I bought the ingredients and I'm going to make it today. It's the Black is Beautiful Imperial Stout. And here's what we have in it. 10 pounds of pale malt. I'm going to use Maris Otter. 2 pounds of flaked oats. 1 pound of chocolate malt. 12 ounces of flaked barley. 12 ounces of caramel crystal 120 Lovabond. 12 ounces of roasted barley. 8 ounces of chocolate rye, but my homebrew store didn't have chocolate rye, so I'm just using regular rye. And 4 ounces of black malt plus 1 pound of corn sugar laid in the boil. The hops are 1 ounce of Columbus at 60 minutes, 2 ounces of Cascade at 20 minutes, and 2 more ounces of Cascade at 10 minutes. For the yeast, the American Home Brewers Association calls for, I believe it's WLP001. Is that American ale yeast? I'm not sure. But what I'm using is the same thing that the Basic Brewing Video guys used, and that's Imperial yeast A10 Darkness. It's brew day. Let's go. All right, I am really going to put through the paces, this new hopper extension that I built. I just bought some sheet metal from the home store, cut it, bent it, riveted it together, and it'll extend the base capacity of the hopper that came with my grain mill, which is 7 pounds of grain, to, I don't know, this is pretty big. I've got 13¼ pounds of grain in this recipe. I did a little over 8.5 I think was the last recipe, and that filled it up to about here. So I think I can get the full 13¼ in. Let's see. You know what? I probably should start the mill first. There's 10 pounds. And And if I was prepared, I would have had a knife ready. One moment. Hop Craft Supply mixed all my other grains together as per my instructions on their website. Great guys over at that store. They ship too, so if you want to go to hopcraftsupply.com, they'll take care of you. Alright, so I didn't put it all in at once, so can't really tell what the capacity really is, but 13¼ pounds, no problem. Alright, here's a tip for first-time all-grain brewers. If you're going to brew all grain, you need to crush that grain, and that's so that the water gets inside the kernel into all the starchy goodness to extract as much sugar as possible. Now you can buy your grains already crushed online if you're buying a kit, or if you're just buying bulk grain at your local homebrew store. Most places will crush the grain for you if you ask them to. The caveat is the store has their grain mill gap set at a certain size, and they're not likely to change that gap to suit your needs. They have an average setting for their grain mill, and they're crushing grains for everybody. You're just one of them. And that's important because the crush of the grain will affect the efficiency on your brew day, how much sugar you can extract from that grain. Now you can compensate if your grain from the store is giving you efficiency here and you were expecting it to be here. You just adjust your recipe to add more grain to get the efficiency that you actually want and the gravity that you actually want. That means buying a little more grain. Or you can buy your own grain mill. Now you don't have to have this fancy setup that I have. The external motor and the hopper and the stand. When I first bought this, it was just this right here, and it had a base that fit over top of a bucket and a hand crank. And I did that for a long time. Then I got a cordless drill and used the drill to crush the grains. You can attach the drill to the shaft on the mill. The third option you have is to put your grain in like a freezer bag, heavy duty plastic bag, and take a rolling pin and crush it on your table. It works best probably for partial mash recipes where you're not using a whole lot. But you could do 10, 12, 13 pounds of grain. It's just going to take you some time. And there are a lot of people who do crush their grains with a rolling pin. All right, now it's time to dough in. My strike water has reached 165 degrees. Once I dough in the grain and stir it in, grain is going to absorb some of that heat and it will drop down. I'm hoping it drops down to about 154. That's my mash temperature. Let's go. Stir this good and thoroughly so that there are no dough balls. It looks pretty good. Now there are some flaked elements. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now there are some flaked elements I need to add. I've got flaked barley. I've got 2 pounds of flaked oats. right, let's do a temperature check. 154 is what I'm looking for. I got 155.3 right there. 155.3 right there. Put the manifold back in, put the lid back on, and start the pump. All right, I sparged already. You've seen me swap hoses around and adjust valves to get the flow just right from each kettle, so you don't need to see that again. So I've got my full 9 gallons of wort in the boil kettle. The heating element is on. It'll be several more minutes before I get up to a boil. I'm just stirring it now to make sure everything is mixed very well so I can get an accurate sample to check my post-boil gravity. Just a couple of drops is all I need. Let this cool for 30 seconds. Gravity 1056 is the target. I'm just under 1055. Call it 1054. So not bad. Not bad at all. All right. The boil has begun. My first addition of hops is 1 ounce of Columbus, 15.5% alpha acids. I'm just going to put them right in my little hop container here. Time for hop addition number 2, 2 ounces of Cascade. All right, there's the timer. The last addition of hops with 5 minutes to go. 5 or 10 minutes to go, I forget which. 2 more ounces of Cascade. Five more minutes, and I'll add yeast nutrient, and then 5 minutes after that, I'll be done. I've got my counterflow chiller already hooked up. I don't know how much longer this thing is for this world. I'm thinking of either getting an accelerator. I don't know if you've ever seen those before. Either that or a Hydra immersion chiller. Whether I can get away with using one of those with the boil coil inside, I don't know. But anyway, the chilling situation may change. Not real soon, but eventually. That's it. The boil is over. I'm going to leave the valves open. I'm going to turn off the heat. My garden hose is set up and the water is going on now. And the chilling process is underway. All right, my wort is in the fermenter. Time to pitch the yeast. By the way, if you buy yeast in the summertime, ask for more ice packs than you think you need. I thought one would do it, and this thing arrived all swelled up. Anyway, very good. You might be able to hear the my blow off going on the other fermenter. That's the best bitter I did last video, and that's the one with the tilt inside. And right now it's got a gravity of 110 at 69 degrees. Basement this time of year does pretty good at fermentation temperatures without any extra chilling or heating. So this is probably real close to being done. But I'll wait for a couple more days, at least one more day. Now, it's time to button up this one. I'm planning on sharing the same jar filled with Star San. All right, 2 fermenters are going. That doesn't happen a whole heck of a lot, but it's nice when it does. The post-boil gravity was 1068. Recipe said I was going to get 1081, just a bit outside. A little major league reference. I'm going to live with that though. I could have continued boiling, squeezed a few more gravity points out of it, but I like to put a full 5 gallons in the keg, and I'll get that out of this batch. It just won't be as high an ABV as the recipe said I was going to get, but that's fine. That's fine. Brew day is over.
Just a bit outside.